High Admiral Vexthar stood in the command center of his massive warship, looking at the holographic display that showed the entire Zephyrian Empire. Hundreds of star systems glowed blue, marking territories under their control. The Empire had grown powerful over thousands of years, conquering worlds and building the strongest military force in their part of the galaxy. The Admiral was tall, even for his species, with dark purple skin and 4 arms that moved with practiced precision. His silver uniform showed many medals from battles won and worlds conquered. Today, however, he was not thinking about past victories. He was angry about a message that had arrived from the Galactic Council. The message played again on the main screen. An old alien with wrinkled skin and tired eyes spoke in the common galactic language. "This is Chancellor Mordek of the Galactic Council. We are sending this urgent warning to all member civilizations and independent empires. The Sol System and all surrounding sectors are completely off-limits. No ships may enter. No probes may be sent. No contact is allowed with the species that lives there." The Chancellor paused, looking directly at the camera. "We know some of you think this. Warning is foolish. You believe your technology is superior. You think your weapons can handle any threat. You are wrong. 3 separate civilizations have already learned this lesson. None of their fleets returned. We have sealed all records of what happened to protect other species from making the same mistake." Admiral Vexthar turned off the message with an angry gesture. Around him, his senior officers waited for his response. They had all heard the same warning, and they all had the same reaction. The Galactic Council was trying to keep them away from something valuable. "This is nonsense," the Admiral said, his 4 arms moving as he spoke. "The Council wants to keep the best conquest for themselves. They speak of a primitive species that somehow destroyed 3 fleets. Impossible." Dr. Kilnara, the fleet's chief science officer, stepped forward. She was smaller than the Admiral, with bright green skin and large eyes that showed her intelligence. In her hands, she carried a data pad with everything they knew about the Sol system. "Admiral, I have been studying the limited information we could gather," she said carefully. "The 3rd planet in that system does have intelligent life. Our long-range sensors show they achieved spaceflight only 200 years ago. By our standards, they should still be using primitive rockets and simple satellites." The Admiral laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 200 years? We were building star fortresses when they were still living in caves. What could such babies possibly do to threaten real warriors?" Dr. Kilnara looked uncomfortable. "That is what troubles me, Admiral. Our deep space monitors have detected something strange. Ships that went to investigate that system simply vanished. Not destroyed in battle. Vanished completely, as if they never existed. The area around their star has become what our scouts call a ship graveyard." Captain Zor Inth, the Admiral's military advisor, moved closer to the holographic display. He was a veteran of many wars, with scars across his face from battles fought with blade and energy weapon. His experience had taught him to be careful, but even he found the Council's warning hard to believe. "Admiral, I have spoken with officers from other fleets," he said slowly. "Some of them whisper stories about the Sol system. They say the first expedition that went there belonged to the hegemony of Kron, 50 ships, including their greatest dreadnought. None returned. The Kron leadership claimed it was a navigation error, that the fleet was lost in a stellar anomaly." The Admiral waved dismissively. "The Kron were always weak. Their technology was outdated even when they ruled a dozen worlds," Captain Zorinth continued. "The second expedition was sent by the Collective of Minds. They were known for their advanced artificial intelligence and quantum weapons. 100 ships entered the Sol system. The Collective reported a complete communications failure. They claimed solar radiation interfered with their signals." Dr. Kilnara added, "The 3rd expedition was the most recent, sent by the Stellar Republic only 50 years ago. They had energy shields that could protect against supernovas and weapons that could crack planets. 200 ships, Admiral. The Republic's finest fleet. The command center became quiet. Even Admiral Vexithar stopped moving for a moment. The Stellar Republic had been one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Their disappearance had been a major mystery that no one wanted to discuss. What official explanation did the Republic give? The Admiral asked. They claimed, the fleet encountered a previously unknown cosmic phenomenon, Dr. Kilnara replied. But I have analyzed their last transmissions before the communication blackout. The fleet commander seemed frightened, Admiral. He spoke of weapons that defied physics and defensive systems that should not exist. Admiral Vexthar turned to look at the star chart again. The Sol system was marked in red, indicating the Council's prohibition. It was not a large system, containing only one inhabited world. By all logical thinking, it should be an easy conquest for the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Show me what we know about their world, he commanded. The holographic display changed to show a blue and green planet, the third from its star. Dr. Kilnara manipulated the controls to display their collected data. The planet is called Earth, by its inhabitants. They call themselves humans, population approximately 8 billion. They have one natural satellite, which they call the Moon. The planet shows signs of heavy industrial development and space-based infrastructure. The image zoomed in to show orbital stations and what appeared to be manufacturing facilities floating in space around the planet. This is interesting, the Admiral said, studying the images. For a species only 200 years into space travel, they have built impressive orbital infrastructure. But this only proves they have resources worth taking. Captain Zorinth looked worried. Admiral, perhaps we should consider why the Council is so determined to keep everyone away. What if there really is something dangerous about this system? The Admiral's eyes flashed with anger. Are you suggesting that the Zephyrian Empire should fear a species that was probably throwing stones at each other when our ancestors were building their first starships? Captain, I am disappointed in your lack of confidence. Dr. Kilnara tried a different approach. Admiral, what if we sent a small scouting force first? Just a few ships to observe and gather intelligence. We could learn what happened to the previous expeditions. No, Admiral Vexthar said firmly. Scouting missions are for civilizations that doubt their own strength. We are Zephyrians. We have conquered 40 star systems. Our technology is superior to anything these humans could possibly possess. We will not sneak around like frightened children. He turned to address all the officers in the command center. Prepare the full invasion fleet. 200 ships, including our newest dreadnoughts. We will show the galaxy that the Zephyrian Empire does not bow to the fears and superstitions of the Galactic Council. The officers began to move, preparing to carry out his orders. But Dr. Kilnara remained standing near the holographic display, staring at the image of the blue planet called Earth. Admiral, she said quietly, what if the Council is trying to protect us, not themselves? Admiral Vexthar laughed again, the sound echoing through the command center. Protect us from what? From a species that learned to fly between stars when our empire was already ancient? Dr. Kilnara, your scientific mind is making you too cautious. Sometimes the greatest discoveries require the greatest risks. As the Admiral walked away to prepare for the invasion, Dr. Kilnara continued studying the data about Earth. Something about the whole situation felt wrong to her scientific instincts, but she could not identify exactly what it was. She only knew that 3 advanced civilizations had sent their best fleets to this system, and none had returned to tell their stories. 2 months later, the largest fleet in Zephyrian history moved through space toward the Sol system. Admiral Vexithar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the display that showed all 200 ships of his invasion force. Each vessel was a masterpiece of Zephyrian engineering, equipped with weapons that could destroy cities and shields that could withstand the radiation of dying stars. The fleet moved in perfect formation through the dark space between stars. The Zephyrians had spent decades building these ships, each one representing the peak of their technological achievement. The smallest frigates carried enough firepower to conquer most primitive worlds, while the massive dreadnoughts could crack planets if necessary. Dr. Kyle Nara worked at her science station, constantly scanning ahead for any signs of danger. Since leaving Zephyrian space, she had detected nothing unusual. No enemy ships, no defensive installations, no warnings. The journey toward Earth had been completely peaceful, which somehow made her more nervous than if they had encountered resistance. "Admiral," she called out, "we are approaching the outer edge of the Sol system. Long-range sensors are beginning to detect the planets and other objects in this area." Admiral Vexthar moved to look at her readings. The display showed a typical star system with several planets, asteroid belts, and the usual collection of moons and smaller objects. Nothing appeared threatening or unusual. "I see nothing that would concern a military force of our size," the Admiral said confidently. "Begin detailed scans of their defensive capabilities." As the fleet moved deeper into the system, Dr. Kilnara's instruments began picking up more detailed information. What she saw made her pause and check her readings several times to make sure they were correct. "Admiral, I am detecting something strange about the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. The asteroids appear to have been moved from their natural positions." Captain Zorinth joined them at the science station. His military experience had taught him to pay attention when scientists seemed worried. "What do you mean, moved?" Dr. Kilnara adjusted her sensors to get a clearer picture. "The distribution is too organized to be natural. It looks like someone has positioned these asteroids in specific patterns. I am also detecting metal structures attached to many of them." The Admiral studied the readings with growing interest rather than concern. "Show me these structures." The main display zoomed in to show several large asteroids. Attached to each one were clearly artificial constructions made of metal and other materials. They looked like some kind of installation or facility. "Mining operations," Admiral Vexthar concluded. "They are extracting resources from their asteroid belt. This proves they have advanced enough to be useful workers after we conquer them." But Dr. Kilnara was not satisfied with that explanation. She continued her scans and found something that made her blood run cold. "Admiral, these are not mining facilities. I am detecting energy signatures consistent with weapons systems. Very large weapons systems." Before the Admiral could respond, the communications officer called out from his station. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from somewhere in the asteroid belt. Put it on the main screen," the Admiral ordered. The display showed a simple message in perfect Zephyrian text. "Unknown fleet, you are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning." The command bridge became silent as everyone read the message. Admiral Vexthar was the first to speak, and his voice was filled with anger rather than concern. "They dare to warn us? A species that should be grateful we do not simply destroy their world sends us warnings?" He turned to the weapons officer. "Target the source of that transmission and destroy it." "Yes, Admiral," the weapons officer replied, working at his controls. "Firing main guns." A massive beam of energy shot out from the flagship toward one of the asteroids in the belt. The beam was powerful enough to vaporize a mountain, and it struck the asteroid directly. For a moment, there was a brilliant flash of light as the energy discharge lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, everyone on the bridge expected to see empty space where the asteroid had been. Instead, they saw something impossible. The asteroid was still there, completely undamaged, surrounded by a shimmering energy field that had absorbed their most powerful weapon without any effort. "Impossible," Captain Zorinth whispered. "Our main guns should have destroyed that entire asteroid." Dr. Kilnara was working frantically at her station, trying to understand what had just happened. "Admiral, the energy shield around that asteroid just absorbed our entire weapons discharge and redirected it harmlessly into space. The technology required to do that is far beyond anything in our databases." Admiral Vexthar refused to accept what he was seeing. It must be some kind of natural phenomenon. Perhaps the asteroid has unusual mineral properties that created the shield effect. Admiral, Dr. Kyle said quietly, I am now detecting similar energy shields around dozens of asteroids throughout the belt. This is not natural. Someone built these defenses. As if responding to her words, new contacts began appearing on their sensors. Objects were moving among the asteroids, coming toward the Zephyrian fleet. They were clearly artificial vessels, but their design was unlike anything in the galactic databases. Unknown ship configurations approaching, the sensor operator reported. I count at least 50 vessels of various sizes. Their technology does not match any known civilization. The approaching ships were sleek and elegant, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. They moved with a grace that suggested incredible maneuverability, and they were approaching the Zephyrian fleet at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. Those ships are too small to threaten us, Admiral Vexthar declared. They appear to be scout vessels or light frigates at most. Order the fleet to battle formation. We will demonstrate the power of the Zephyrian Empire. The 200 ships of the invasion fleet began moving into their attack formation, a complex arrangement that had been perfected over centuries of warfare. Each ship knew its position and role, creating overlapping fields of fire that could destroy any enemy force that dared to oppose them. But as they moved into formation, something strange happened. The approaching human ships simply vanished from their sensors. Where did they go? The Admiral demanded. Dr. Kyle was checking and rechecking her instruments. Admiral, they are still there, but our sensors can barely detect them. It is as if they have become ghosts. Suddenly, the human ships reappeared, but not where they had been before. They had somehow moved to positions throughout the Zephyrian formation without being detected. They were now scattered among the invasion fleet, close enough to touch the hulls of the larger ships. How did they get there? Captain Zorinth asked, his professional calm beginning to crack. Before anyone could answer, every screen threw out. The Zephyrian fleet activated simultaneously. A human face appeared on each display. It was a woman with short dark hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a simple uniform without the elaborate decorations that marked rank in most military organizations. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, she said in perfect Zephyrian. You have entered our space despite clear warnings. You have fired weapons at our installations. However, we are willing to give you one more chance to leave peacefully. Admiral Vexthar stepped forward to respond, but Admiral Chen continued speaking. Before you answer, you should know that we have been watching your empire for the past 30 years. We know about your military capabilities, your political structure, and your invasion strategies. We know about the 67 worlds you have conquered and the populations you have enslaved. We know about your homeworld and the location of every military base in your territory. The Zephyrian Admiral felt a chill run through his body. How could these primitives possibly know such detailed information about his empire? We also know, Admiral Chen continued, that you ignored the Galactic Council's warnings because you believed you were superior to us. You thought your technology was advanced enough to overcome any resistance we might offer. You were wrong. Dr. Kilnara was frantically scanning the human ships that surrounded their fleet. What she found made her feel sick with fear. Admiral, their ships are not just using unknown technology, they are using impossible technology. I am detecting energy signatures that violate several laws of physics. Admiral Chen's image looked directly at Admiral Vexthar through the screen. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal from our system. If you choose to stay, you will discover why 3 previous invasion fleets never returned home. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Eternal Conquest in complete silence. Admiral Vexthar looked around at his officers, seeing doubt and fear in their faces for the first time in his military career. He thought about the years of preparation for this invasion, the resources spent building the fleet, and the glory that conquest would bring to the Zephyrian Empire. Then he looked at the impossible ships surrounding his forces and the defensive installations that had effortlessly absorbed his most powerful weapons. For the first time in his life, Admiral Vexthar began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. Admiral Vexthar stared at the screen where the human admiral's face had been moments before. Around him, his officers waited for orders, but he found himself unable to speak. The 60 seconds Admiral Chen had given them were ticking away, and he still could not decide what to do. "Admiral," Captain Zorinth said carefully, "should we begin withdrawal procedures?" The question snapped Admiral Vexthar back to reality. He was the commander of the most powerful fleet in Zephyrian history. He had conquered worlds and defeated armies. He would not be intimidated by a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. "We did not come all this way to run from primitives," he said, his voice growing stronger. "All ships, prepare for battle. Target the nearest human vessels and fire when ready." But before his weapons officer could carry out the order, something happened that froze everyone on the bridge with shock. Every computer screen throughout the ship began displaying information that should have been impossible for the humans to possess. The main display showed detailed plans of the flagship's internal structure, including the location of every weapon, every shield generator, and every critical system. Other screens showed similar plans for every ship in the fleet. The humans somehow had complete technical specifications for vessels that had been built in secret shipyards in the heart of Zephyrian space. Dr. Kylenara gasped as her science station began showing her personal research files, including projects she had worked on years ago in classified laboratories. "Admiral, they have accessed our entire database. How is this possible?" More screens activated throughout the ship. One showed a detailed map of the Zephyrian Empire with the locations of every military base, every shipyard, and every important government facility clearly marked. Another displayed lists of high-ranking officials in the Empire, including their personal information, family details, and political connections. Captain Zorinth watched in horror as a screen near his station showed information about his own family. There were images of his homeworld, his wife, his children, and even his elderly parents. The humans knew everything about him, down to his personal habits and private concerns. "This cannot be real," Admiral Vexthar whispered. But even as he spoke, more screens activated to show him information about his own life. The humans knew about his military academy training, his first command, his victories in previous wars, and even his personal relationships with other officers in the fleet. The communications officer called out in a shaking voice, "Admiral, every ship in the fleet is reporting the same thing. The humans are displaying detailed intelligence about our entire civilization." Admiral Vexthar realized that the humans had not just been watching his empire for 30 years, as Admiral Chen had claimed. They had been studying it, learning everything there was to know about Zephyrian technology, society, and military capabilities. Somehow, these supposedly primitive beings had infiltrated the most secure systems in his empire without anyone noticing. The screens changed again, this time showing historical records of the 3 previous invasion fleets that had attacked Earth. The Zephyrians watched in growing horror as the displays revealed what had really happened to those expeditions. The first invasion, by the hegemony of Kron, was shown in detailed recordings. The human defenders had not simply destroyed the Kron fleet. They had systematically disabled each ship, studied its technology, and then absorbed the crew into their defensive systems. The Kron had not died in battle. They had been captured, interrogated, and their knowledge used to prepare for future attacks. The second invasion, by the collective of minds, had met an even stranger fate. The humans had somehow turned the collective's artificial intelligence systems against them, reprogramming their own ships to attack each other. The collective's advanced quantum weapons had been reversed and used to tear apart their own fleet from within. The third invasion by the Stellar Republic was the most disturbing of all. The humans had allowed the Republic fleet to land troops on Earth's surface, then systematically studied their tactics, equipment, and strategy. Once they had learned everything they needed to know, the humans had destroyed the entire invasion. Force, using the Republic's own weapons, turned against them with improvements the humans had made. Each invasion made them stronger, Dr. Kilnara said quietly, reading the data that scrolled across her screen. They did not just defeat these fleets. They learned from them. They absorbed their technology and used it to improve their own defenses. Admiral Vexthar felt his confidence cracking as he realized the true situation. The humans had not been hiding from the galaxy for 200 years. They had been preparing. Every attack on their world had been a lesson. Every defeated enemy a source of new knowledge and technology. Suddenly, the human ships that surrounded the Zephyrian fleet began to change. Their smooth, flowing hulls shifted and reconfigured, revealing weapon systems that incorporated technology from a dozen different civilizations. Admiral Vexthar recognized weapon designs from the Kron, shield configurations from the Collective, and armor patterns from the Stellar Republic, all somehow integrated into a unified whole that was more advanced than any of the original components. Admiral Chen's voice spoke again from every speaker in the fleet, but this time her tone was different. She no longer sounded like she was offering a choice. She sounded like a teacher explaining a lesson to students who had failed to understand. "You are wondering how we know so much about your empire?" she said. "The answer is simple. We have been watching you since your first ship entered space. We have studied every transmission from your worlds, analyzed every piece of technology you have developed, and observed every military action you have taken." The Admiral tried to speak, but found his voice caught in his throat. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, "when the first invasion fleet attacked our world, we realized something important. We were not just defending against one enemy, we were defending against the entire galaxy. Every civilization out there that might view us as a threat or a target." New images appeared on the screens, showing human installations throughout the galaxy. Hidden monitoring stations in asteroid fields, disguised observation posts on uninhabited moons, and camouflaged ships watching from the edges of major star systems. The humans had been everywhere, seeing everything, learning constantly. "We could have revealed ourselves years ago," Admiral Chen said. "We could have joined the Galactic Council and taken our place among the civilized species. But we chose to remain hidden because we understood something that the rest of the galaxy does not." The images changed to show battle recordings from conflicts throughout galactic history. Wars between different species, conquests of primitive worlds, and the rise and fall of various empires. The pattern was always the same. The strong dominated the weak, and peaceful species were either conquered or destroyed. "The galaxy is not a safe place for peaceful civilizations," Admiral Chen explained. "Empires like yours exist by conquering others. The Galactic Council exists to maintain the balance of power, not to prevent conflict. We decided that the only way to ensure our survival was to become stronger than any potential threat." Captain Zorinth looked at Admiral Vexthar with desperation in his eyes. "Admiral, we should withdraw. This is not a battle we can win." But Admiral Vexthar was staring at the screens that showed the true extent of human capabilities. He could see now that Earth was not just defended by the ships around his fleet. The entire Sol system was a fortress, with defensive installations on every moon, armed platforms in every asteroid belt, and weapon systems that defied the laws of physics as he understood them. "You have a choice to make," Admiral Chen said, her voice echoing through every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. "You can withdraw now and return to your empire with the knowledge that Earth is not a target you can conquer. Or you can attack and discover why we are called the guardians of this region of space." The Admiral looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. He saw fear, confusion, and the dawning realization that they had sailed into a trap that had been centuries in the making. The humans had not just defended against 3 previous invasions. They had used those invasions to prepare for this moment, when the largest and most powerful fleet in this part of the galaxy would come to test their defenses. Dr. Kelnara was still studying the data streaming across her screens. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I do not think these are the same humans who achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. I think they have evolved. Their integration with artificial intelligence, their mastery of physics we do not understand, their perfect coordination across impossible distances, they have become something new." Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen one more time. This time she was not alone. Behind her stood representatives of dozens of other species, all wearing human uniforms, all clearly serving in the Earth Defense Force. "These are the survivors of the fleets that attacked us," Admiral Chen explained. "We do not kill our enemies, Admiral Vexthar. We offer them a choice. They can return home with the knowledge of what they have seen, or they can join us in protecting this region of space from civilizations that threaten peaceful species." Admiral Vexthar stood in silence for what felt like hours, though only minutes had passed. The weight of his decision pressed down on him like the gravity of a collapsing star. Around him, his officers waited for orders that could save their lives or doom them all. Finally, the Admiral's pride won over his growing fear. He had not built his reputation by running from battles, no matter how impossible they seemed. The Zephyrian Empire expected victory, and he would give it to them, or die trying. "All ships," he commanded, his voice carrying across the fleet communications network. "Attack Formation 7. Target all human vessels and fire at will, for the glory of the Zephyrian Empire." The response was immediate. 200 warships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon, all focused on the 50 human ships that had dared to surround them. For a moment, space around the Sol system blazed with light as weapons discharged and explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Admiral Vexthar watched the display with satisfaction, convinced that no ships could survive such overwhelming firepower. But as the light faded, his satisfaction turned to horror. The human ships were still there, completely undamaged. Around, each vessel's shimmering energy fields had absorbed the massive weapons discharge and were now glowing with stored power. "Impossible!" Captain Zorianth whispered. "Our entire fleet's weapons should have vaporized those ships." Dr. Kelnara was working frantically at her science station, trying to understand what had just happened. "Admiral, they did not just block our weapons. They absorbed the energy, all of it. Their shields are somehow converting our attacks into power for their own systems." Before Admiral Vexthar could respond to this impossible development, the human ships began their counterattack. But what happened next defied everything the Zephyrians understood about space warfare. The first human ship seemed to fold in on itself, disappearing from normal space and reappearing inside the formation of Zephyrian vessels. It materialized next to one of the Empire's heavy cruisers and fired a single, precise shot that somehow passed through the cruiser's shields as if they did not exist. The cruiser did not explode. Instead, it simply stopped. All its lights went out, its engines shut down, and it began drifting helplessly through space. Whatever the human weapon had done, it had disabled the entire ship without destroying it. "Report!" Admiral Vexthar shouted. "What happened to the Crimson Blade?" The communications officer tried to contact the disabled cruiser, but received no response. "No communications, Admiral. The ship appears to be completely powerless." More human ships began using the same impossible tactic. They would vanish from one location and appear in another, always inside the Zephyrian formation, always in the perfect position to disable enemy vessels with single, precise shots. Within minutes, a dozen Zephyrian ships had been neutralized, without a single human casualty. Dr. Kelnara was studying the sensor readings from the disabled ships. What she found made her feel sick with fear. "Admiral, the human weapons are not destroying our ships. They are reprogramming them. I am detecting massive changes in the computer systems of every disabled vessel." "What kind of changes?" the Admiral demanded. "The ships are being converted," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Their weapons, their shields, their engines, everything is being modified to work with human technology. They are turning our own fleet against us." As if to prove her point, several of the disabled Zephyrian ships suddenly came back to life, but now they were flying in formation with the human vessels, their weapons aimed at their former comrades. Admiral Vexthar watched in horror as his own ships turned against him. The converted vessels knew all the weaknesses of Zephyrian technology because they were Zephyrian technology. They attacked with precision that no enemy should possess, targeting exactly the right systems to disable rather than destroy. "All ships, fall back to defensive formation," the Admiral ordered. "Do not let the human ships get close." But the human vessels had capabilities that made traditional defensive formations useless. They could appear and disappear at will, moving through space in ways that violated every law of physics the Zephyrians knew. Some ships seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, attacking from several directions at once. Others moved backward through time, firing their weapons before they had finished aiming. Captain Zorinth tried to coordinate the fleet's defense, but it was like fighting shadows. Every time they targeted a human ship, it would vanish and reappear somewhere else. Every time they tried to predict where the enemy would attack next, they found themselves shooting at empty space while human weapons struck from unexpected angles. "Admiral," Dr. Kielanara called out, "I am detecting massive gravitational distortions throughout the battle area. The humans are somehow manipulating gravity itself as a weapon." She was right. Several Zephyrian ships began spinning out of control as localized. Gravity fields grabbed them and hurled them into each other. The humans were using the fundamental forces of the universe as tools of war, turning the Zephyrian fleet's own momentum against them. But the most terrifying aspect of the human attack was not their impossible technology. It was their tactics. They fought like no species the Zephyrians had ever encountered. Where other civilizations sought to destroy their enemies quickly and efficiently, the humans seemed to be studying each ship they disabled, learning from every encounter. Admiral Vexthar realized that this was not just a battle, it was a lesson. The humans were teaching the galaxy what happened to those who ignored their warnings. They were demonstrating their capabilities not just to the Zephyrian fleet, but to every civilization that might be watching. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving transmissions from some of our disabled ships." "Put them through," the Admiral ordered, hoping to hear that his crews had found a way to resist the human technology. Instead, he heard the voice of Captain Helmar, commander of the heavy cruiser that had been disabled first. But something was wrong with the captain's voice. He sounded calm, almost peaceful. "Admiral Vexthar," Captain Helmar said, "I want you to know that my crew and I are safe. The humans have not harmed us. Instead, they have shown us something incredible. Captain, report your status immediately," the Admiral demanded. "Admiral, they have shown us what our empire really is. We have spent our lives conquering other species, enslaving populations, destroying civilizations that could not defend themselves. We told ourselves it was for the glory of the empire, but it was really just brutality disguised as honor." Admiral Vexthar felt his blood run cold. "Captain, you are clearly under some kind of mind control. Resist their influence." "No, Admiral. My mind has never been clearer. The humans have access to our entire history, our complete records. They have shown me the truth about every world we conquered, every population we enslaved, every culture we destroyed. I cannot go back to serving an empire built on such cruelty." Similar transmissions began coming from other disabled ships. Crew after crew reported that they had been shown the true history of the Zephyrian Empire, and they could no longer fight for a cause they now understood to be evil. Dr. Kilnara looked up from her station with tears in her large eyes. "Admiral, the humans are not just defeating us militarily, they are defeating us morally. They are showing our people the truth about what we have done." The battle continued around them, but it was no longer really a battle. It had become a systematic dismantling of the Zephyrian fleet by an enemy that understood warfare on levels the Admiral had never imagined. The humans were not just superior in technology, they were superior in strategy, tactics, and most importantly, in their understanding of what it meant to fight for something worth defending. Admiral Vexthar looked at the tactical display and saw that only half his fleet remained under his control. The other half had been either disabled and converted or had voluntarily surrendered after learning the truth about their empire. The human ships continued their impossible maneuvers, always, staying one step ahead of Zephyrian weapons, always striking at exactly the right moment to maximize their advantage. "Admiral," Captain Zorinth said quietly, "we cannot win this battle. Our weapons cannot touch them. Our tactics are useless against their technology, and they are turning our own people against us. We must consider surrender." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vexthar found himself agreeing with a suggestion to surrender. But even as he prepared to give the order, he wondered if it was already too late. The humans had demonstrated that they could defeat any force sent against them, but they had also shown mercy to those who surrendered. The question was whether they would extend that same mercy to the Admiral who had led this doomed invasion into their space. The battle, if it could still be called that, came to an end not with explosions or surrender, but with silence. Admiral Vexthar stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching as the last of his fleet was systematically disabled by the human forces. Around him, his senior officers had already been taken to other ships for what the humans called educational discussions. Only Dr. Kyle Nara remained at her science station, quietly studying the data from the battle. She had volunteered to stay, claiming she wanted to understand how the humans had achieved such impossible technological superiority. In truth, Admiral Vexthar suspected she stayed because she felt responsible for not warning him more strongly about the dangers they would face. The main screen activated, and Admiral Sarah Chen appeared once again. This time, she was alone, standing in what appeared to be the bridge of her ship. Behind her, Admiral Vexthar could see displays showing the positions of every vessel in the area, both human and Zephyrian. "Admiral Vexthar," she said, her voice carrying neither triumph nor anger, "the battle is over. Your fleet has been neutralized and your crews are safe. Before we discuss what happens next, I think you deserve to understand exactly what you encountered here today." The Admiral found his voice, though it sounded weaker than he would have liked. "You have defeated the greatest fleet in Zephyrian history. Is that not enough for your victory?" Admiral Chen smiled, but it was not a cruel expression. "Admiral, this was never about victory. This was about education. The galaxy needed to learn why the Galactic Council's warnings should be taken seriously. Your empire was chosen for this lesson because you were the most powerful and aggressive civilization currently threatening peaceful species." The display behind Admiral Chen changed to show a map of the galaxy with various civilizations marked in different colors. Red markers indicated aggressive empires that conquered other species. Blue markers showed peaceful civilizations that posed no threat to their neighbors. Yellow markers represented species that were still developing space travel capabilities. "For the past 200 years, Admiral Chen explained, we have been watching and protecting the peaceful species marked in blue. We have prevented 17 different invasions, stopped 43 raids on primitive worlds, and intervened in dozens of conflicts where advanced civilizations were bullying those weaker than themselves." Admiral Vexthar stared at the map, in shock. The human influence extended throughout the galaxy, far beyond the Sol system. They had been active everywhere, but so secretly that no one had noticed. You have been interfering in galactic affairs for 2 centuries? He asked. We have been protecting the innocent, Admiral Chen corrected. Every species has the right to develop and grow without fear of conquest. The strong do not have the right to dominate the weak simply because they can. Dr. Kilnera looked up from her station. Admiral Chen, how is this possible? Our intelligence indicated that humans only achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. How could you have developed such advanced technology so quickly? Admiral Chen's expression became more serious. Dr. Kilnera, your intelligence was correct about when we achieved spaceflight. But you made the same mistake that every other civilization makes when they study us. You assumed that advancement means the same thing for humans as it does for other species. The display changed again, showing a timeline of human development. But instead of focusing on technology, it showed the growth of human cooperation, learning, and adaptation. Most species develop technology by building bigger weapons and stronger defenses, Admiral Chen continued. Humans develop technology by learning to work together more effectively. When the first invasion fleet attacked us, we realized that our greatest strength was not our individual intelligence, but our ability to combine that intelligence with artificial minds we had created. Images appeared showing humans working alongside advanced artificial intelligences, not as masters and servants, but as partners in a shared endeavor to protect their world and others. We created artificial intelligences that could think faster than biological minds, then taught them to value the same things we value: freedom, peace, and the protection of those who cannot protect themselves. Together, human creativity and artificial intelligence created technologies that neither could have developed alone. Admiral Vexthar was beginning to understand. You did not just build better weapons. You built a better way of thinking about warfare. Exactly, Admiral Chen confirmed. We learned that the best way to win a war is to make your enemies understand why they should not want to fight you in the first place. Every battle we fight is designed to teach a lesson that will prevent future conflicts. The screen showed recordings from the recent battle, but from the human perspective. Admiral Vexthar could see how every move had been calculated, not just for military effectiveness, but for maximum educational impact. The humans had not simply defeated his fleet. They had demonstrated the futility of attacking Earth in a way that would be remembered and passed on to other civilizations. What happens to my crews? The Admiral asked. What happens to me? That depends on what you choose to do with what you have learned, Admiral Chen replied. Your crews are currently being shown the complete history of the Zephyrian Empire, including records of every conquest, every enslaved population, and every destroyed civilization. Some of them will choose to return home and work to reform your empire. Others will ask to stay and help us protect the galaxy from future invasions. Admiral Vexthar felt a chill as he realized the implications. You are trying to destroy our empire from within. No, Admiral. We are giving your people the chance to see what their empire really is and make their own choices. If the Zephyrian Empire cannot survive its people learning the truth about their history, then perhaps it should not survive at all. Dr. Kilnera had been listening to every word, and now she spoke up. Admiral Chen, what about those of us who return home? What message are we supposed to carry? Admiral Chen turned her attention to the Zephyrian scientist. Dr. Kilnera, you are one of the finest scientific minds in your empire. You understand the importance of accurate data and honest conclusions. We want you to tell your people exactly what you have seen here. And what have I seen? Dr. Kilnera asked. You have seen that Earth is not a target to be conquered, Admiral Chen replied. You have seen that humans are not primitives to be enslaved. You have seen that the galaxy has guardians who will protect peaceful species from aggressive empires. Most importantly, you have seen that there is an alternative to the endless cycle of conquest and domination that has characterized galactic civilization for thousands of years. The Admiral looked at the tactical display one more time. Of his Original fleet of 200 ships. Only his flagship remained under his control. The rest had either been disabled and converted, or had voluntarily joined the human forces after their crews learned the truth about the Zephyrian Empire. What guarantee do we have that you will not attack our worlds in revenge? He asked. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. Admiral, we have had the capability to destroy the Zephyrian Empire for decades. If we wanted revenge, we would have taken it long ago. We do not attack other civilizations. We only defend against those who attack us or threaten peaceful species. She paused, then continued. However, if the Zephyrian Empire continues its aggressive expansion and conquest of other worlds, we will intervene. The choice is yours. Reform your civilization and join the community of peaceful species, or continue your current path and discover what happens to empires that prey upon the innocent. Admiral Vexthar understood that he was being given the same choice that had been offered to his crews. He could return home with the knowledge of what he had seen and work to change his empire, or he could continue to serve a cause that he now understood was fundamentally wrong. "Will you escort us to the edge of your space?" he asked. "Of course," Admiral Chen replied. "But Admiral, before you go, there is one more thing you should understand. This battle will be recorded and shared with every civilization in the galaxy. The Galactic Council will receive complete documentation of what happened here, and they will add it to their warnings about the Sol system." The implications hit Admiral Vexthar like a physical blow. Not only had he failed to conquer Earth, but his failure would be known throughout the galaxy. Every civilization would learn that the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been defeated by a species they had considered primitive. "The galaxy will know that we were beaten by humans," he said. "The galaxy will know that you were educated by humans," Admiral Chen corrected. "There is a difference, Admiral. What you do with that education will determine whether history remembers this as the day the Zephyrian Empire was defeated, or the day it began to reform." As the human ships escorted the eternal conquest toward the edge of the Sol system, Admiral Vexthar had time to think about everything that had happened. He had come to conquer a primitive world, and had instead discovered a civilization far more advanced than his own, not just in technology, but in wisdom, morality, and understanding of what it meant to be truly powerful. When he returned to the Zephyrian Empire, he would face difficult.
The dark expanse of space rippled as 3 sleek vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel just beyond the orbit of Mars. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent material unknown to Earth science, at least officially. Inside the lead ship, Ambassador Krell adjusted his breathing apparatus and gazed at the blue planet displayed on the main view screen. "So primitive," he said, his 4-fingered hand dismissively waving at the image. "They've barely left their own atmosphere." His science, Officer Trell nodded in agreement. "Their most advanced satellites are rudimentary at best. They've sent a few basic probes to nearby planets, but nothing beyond their solar system." "Perfect," Krell replied. "The Council will be pleased. Another resource-rich world with minimal resistance." What the aliens didn't know was that their conversation was being monitored. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that didn't exist on any public record, Commander Reed listened intently. Her calm expression betrayed none of the anger she felt at the aliens' dismissive tone. "They're exactly as arrogant as we expected," she told the grim-faced military and government officials gathered around the conference table. "Operation Deception is now active," the president nodded. "What's the status of the Thunderbolt?" Reed pressed a button on her tablet, bringing up a live feed from space. The image showed a massive vessel hidden in the shadow of Jupiter, its dark hull nearly invisible against the gas giant's swirling storms. "Captain Miller reports all systems are green. They're watching everything, but remain undetected." "Good," the president said. "Let's play our parts well, ladies and gentlemen. The future of Earth depends on it." 3 days later, the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere with a theatrical display of lights and sound, designed to awe the primitives below. They landed on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., surrounded by military cordons and watched by billions on screens worldwide. Ambassador Krell emerged from his ship flanked by guards and assistants. His tall, slender frame and blue-tinged skin caused gasps from the crowd. He wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes, though in reality, they contained advanced defensive technology. The president stepped forward, leading a delegation of world leaders assembled hastily for this historic moment. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you," he said, arms spread wide in a gesture of peace. Krell inclined his head slightly, the translator device at his throat converting his clicks and hums into English. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council, young ones. We have watched your development with interest." The carefully orchestrated meeting proceeded exactly as the aliens had planned. They spoke of peace, cooperation, and cultural exchange. Earth's leaders appeared appropriately awed and grateful for the attention of such advanced beings. Later that evening, in a private meeting with world leaders, Krell revealed the true nature of their visit. "Your world has been classified as a Class 3 developing planet," he explained, projecting a holographic document. "This entitles you to council protection and guidance." "What exactly does that mean for Earth?" asked the president, feigning ignorance. Krell smiled, displaying teeth too perfectly aligned to be natural. "It means we will help you advance at an appropriate pace. We will establish outposts to monitor your development and ensure you don't harm yourselves." "That sounds generous," the president replied, matching Krell's condescending tone with apparent sincerity. "We have much to learn." What Krell couldn't see was the hidden communication device in the president's watch, transmitting everything to Commander Reed's facility and beyond, to the Thunderbolt waiting silently in Jupiter's shadow. Captain James Miller floated in the observation deck of the Thunderbolt, watching the live feed from Earth. At 45, Miller had spent half his life in the secret space program, training for this moment. His weathered face remained expressionless as he listened to the aliens' hollow promises. "Captain," called his first officer, Lisa Parker. "Engineer Thompson wants you in the engine room." Miller nodded and pushed off, gliding through the ship's main corridor with the ease of someone born to zero gravity. The Thunderbolt was humanity's masterpiece, a vessel built using technology reverse-engineered from an alien craft that had crashed in Antarctica nearly 80 years ago. In the engine room, Jack Thompson was hunched over a console displaying complex equations. "You should see this, Captain," Thompson said without looking up. His hands moved rapidly over the controls. "I've been analyzing their propulsion signatures. Their FTL drive is surprisingly inefficient." Miller raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" Thompson finally looked up, a glint in his eye. "Meaning our modifications actually make our engines about 20% faster than theirs. They aren't as advanced as they think." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Keep that information secure. Any other observations?" "Their communication systems are leaking data. They think they're encrypted, but Dr. Chen cracked their basic protocols within hours. We're getting tactical data, personnel records, everything." Miller nodded. "Good. What about their weapons?" "Standard energy-based systems. Our shields should hold against them, especially with the adaptations we've made." "Excellent work. Keep monitoring." Miller turned to leave but paused. "And Jack? Not a word about our advantages to anyone outside the command crew." "Of course, Captain." Back on Earth, Ambassador Krell met privately with his team in their ship, unaware of the sophisticated listening devices hidden within its structure. "These humans are even more primitive than our initial scan suggested," he told his officers. "They're practically falling over themselves to please us." His security chief, Darv, looked less convinced. "I don't trust their easy acceptance. Most species show at least some resistance." Krell waved away the concern. "They're like children discovering there are adults in the universe. Their technology is centuries behind ours. What resistance could they possibly offer?" "What about the resource extraction plan?" asked Trell. "We'll begin surveys immediately," Krell replied. "Their oceans contain remarkable mineral concentrations, and their forests will provide excellent biological samples. We'll start with request for samples and gradually increase our presence." "And if they object?" Darv pressed. Krell's expression hardened. "Then we remind them of their place in the galactic hierarchy. The Council has already approved limited military action if needed. What Krell didn't know was that every word was being transmitted to Commander Reed's facility, where analysts were building a complete profile of the aliens' intentions and capabilities. 1 week after first contact, the alien delegation requested a tour of Earth's most advanced technology centers. Earth's leaders carefully choreographed visits to facilities that displayed exactly the level of technology the aliens expected. Advanced enough to be impressive for primitives, but nowhere near the aliens' capabilities. Meanwhile, Director Boyer Wilson stood in Earth's real technological crown jewel, a massive shipyard built into the dark side of the moon. Before him, 3 ships similar to the Thunderbolt were in various stages of completion. "How soon?" he asked the chief engineer. "The Defiant can be ready in 3 weeks. The Valiant and Resolute need another 2 months." Wilson nodded. "Speed it up if possible. I don't think our visitors plan to stay friendly for long." As he spoke, a message arrived from Earth. The aliens had begun setting up monitoring stations around the planet, devices that were actually resource analyzers and tactical positions. The game of deception had begun in earnest. Earth appeared welcoming and naive while secretly preparing for the moment when diplomacy would fail. The aliens believed they were dealing with an easy conquest while unwittingly facing humanity's hidden strength. And in the shadow of Jupiter, Captain Miller and the crew of the Thunderbolt waited, watching, ready to reveal that Earth wasn't as young or helpless as the Galactic Council thought. Director Wilson stood at the large observation window overlooking the lunar shipyard. His breath fogged slightly on the glass as he watched hundreds of workers in specialized suits moving across the massive hulls of the nearly completed warships. The dark side of the moon had proven perfect for hiding humanity's greatest secret. "Progress report," Wilson said to the woman who had just entered the room. Chief Engineer Anna Wright consulted her tablet. "The Defiant is at 92% completion. Weapon systems are fully installed. We're just finishing the shield calibrations and life support testing." "And the other 2? "The Valiant is at 81%. We've accelerated work on the propulsion systems since your last order. The Resolute is at 76%, but we've prioritized her stealth systems. She'll be the quietest ship in the fleet." Wilson nodded, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow from the work lights outside. At 62, he had spent 30 years of his life on this project, ever since the recovery team had pulled that crashed alien ship from the Antarctic ice. "The aliens have set up 15 monitoring stations around Earth now," he said. "They're scanning everything, mapping our resources. Yesterday, they requested access to survey the Atlantic seabed." Wright's expression hardened. "For scientific exchange, I'm sure." "Exactly." Wilson turned away from the window. "I want all 3 ships ready in 6 weeks, whatever it takes." "That's pushing the safety margin, sir." "I know, but I don't think we have much more time than that." Meanwhile, aboard the Thunderbolt, Captain Miller floated through the ship's central corridor toward the bridge. The vessel was running silent, minimal power, hidden in Jupiter's shadow. Only essential systems remained active as they monitored the alien communications. The bridge was dimly lit when Miller arrived, designed to preserve night vision and reduce power signatures. His crew worked quietly at their stations. "Captain, on the bridge," announced First Officer Parker. "Status report," Miller said, strapping himself into the command chair. "All systems nominal," Parker replied. "We've intercepted some interesting communications in the past hour. The aliens are discussing bringing in survey teams for Earth's oceans." "Put it on screen." The main display lit up with a transcript of the intercepted alien communication. Miller read it carefully, his jaw tightening. "They're not even trying to hide their intentions," he said. "These aren't survey teams. They're resource extraction planners." "Yes, sir," said Communications Officer Ben Hayes. "They're specifically interested in rare earth elements and uranium deposits." Miller tapped his fingers on the armrest. "What's the status of our improvements to the weapon systems?" "Jack has been working around the clock," Parker said. "The modifications to the main cannons are complete. According to simulations, they're now 30% more powerful than standard Galactic Council weaponry." "And they still don't know we're here?" "No, sir. Our stealth systems are holding. They've sent scout ships through the system, but none have detected us. Miller nodded. Good. Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know the moment their tone changes from friendly visitors to resource collectors. Back on Earth, Ambassador Krell walked through a carefully selected technology company, nodding politely as human executives showed him their advanced computer systems. Inside, he was laughing. Their most powerful supercomputers were toys compared to the processing unit in his personal communicator. Very impressive for your development stage, he said, the translator making his condescending tone sound almost sincere. Thank you, Ambassador, said the company CEO. We're very proud of our progress. Krell gestured to one of his aides who stepped forward with a small device. As a gesture of goodwill, I'd like to offer you this data storage unit. It contains basic educational materials about some simple technologies your people might find useful. That's very generous, the CEO said, accepting the device with appropriate awe. What the humans didn't reveal was that identical alien gifts had been thoroughly examined in secret labs beneath the very building they stood in. Earth scientists had already determined they contained monitoring software and carefully limited technology designed to guide human development along paths beneficial to the Galactic Council. As Krell left the building, Commander Reed watched from a car across the street. She spoke quietly into her secure communicator. The package has been delivered. Isolate it in Lab 4 and compare with the previous samples. Yes, Commander, came the reply. Initial analysis shows the same tracking software but some new surveying applications. They're getting impatient, Reed mused. Keep me updated. That evening, engineer Jack Thompson sat alone in his quarters aboard the Thunderbolt, surrounded by holographic schematics. The room glowed with the blue light of projected alien technology designs. Comparing them with his modifications, there was a knock at his door. Come in, he called, not looking up from his work. Captain Miller entered carrying 2 pouches of coffee, a luxury aboard the ship. Thought you could use this, Miller said, handing one to Jack. Thanks, Captain. Thompson took a grateful sip. I've been analyzing their shield harmonics from the data we've intercepted. There's a fundamental flaw in their approach. Show me. Thompson manipulated the hologram, highlighting a section of the alien shield design. They use a fixed frequency modulation for their shields. It's powerful but predictable. Our adaptive system shifts frequencies constantly, making it much harder to penetrate. Miller studied the display. How did they miss this? Thompson shrugged. Complacency, maybe. When you're the biggest kid on the block for thousands of years, you stop looking for better ways to do things. And what does that mean for us in a fight? It means, Thompson said with a small smile, that our shields will hold against their weapons far longer than their shields will hold against ours. Miller nodded. Keep this to yourself for now. If we have to fight, I want every advantage we can get. In the secret facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Reed and the President reviewed the latest intelligence. They've set up monitoring stations on every continent now, Reed said, pointing to the map. And yesterday they began atmospheric sampling over our major cities. Looking for what? The President asked. Resources, vulnerabilities, biological samples. Standard procedure, before a more aggressive move. The President's face was grim. How much longer should we maintain this charade? Director Wilson reports the lunar fleet will be ready in 6 weeks. The Thunderbolt is fully operational and positioned to respond if needed. And what about our guests? The President nodded toward the ceiling, indicating the alien delegation now occupying a diplomatic compound in Washington. Ambassador Krell has requested a meeting with the United Nations next week. Based on intercepted communications, we believe he's going to present their formal protection agreement, which will include what? Resource rights, limited technology transfers, restricted development paths, and a permanent alien presence on Earth. Standard Council procedure for Class 3 worlds. The President stood and walked to the window, looking out at the mountain range. Humanity has faced many turning points in its history. I never thought first contact would be one where we'd have to deceive visitors from another world just to protect our independence. With respect, sir, Reed said. They came with deception in their hearts. We're just playing the same game. The difference is, the president said quietly, they think they're the only ones who know the real rules. On the moon, the welding sparks from the nearly completed warships lit up the darkness of the hidden shipyard, while in Jupiter's shadow, the Thunderbolt waited silently. Earth's hidden fleet was taking shape, preparing for the moment when humanity would show the Galactic Council that this young world wasn't as helpless as they thought. 6 months after first contact, Earth's leaders gathered in the United Nations Assembly Hall. The room buzzed with tension as Ambassador Krell strode confidently to the podium. Behind him, a delegation of alien officials watched with barely concealed satisfaction. Esteemed leaders of Earth, Krell began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into smooth English. The time has come to formalize our relationship. The Galactic Council has prepared a protection agreement for your world. A holographic document appeared above the podium, slowly rotating for all to see. This agreement will usher your species into a new era of guided development and prosperity, Krell continued. The Council has been most generous in its terms. The document stopped rotating and expanded, revealing its contents section by section. Earth will provide access to 40% of its natural resources with particular focus on rare minerals and biological specimens. In exchange, we will provide limited technological assistance in approved areas. Murmurs ran through the assembly. Additionally, uninhabited regions of your planet will be designated for Council research stations and settlements. We require the complete northern polar region, selected desert areas, and approximately 30% of your ocean floor. The President of the United States, maintaining the facade of shocked concern, raised his hand. Ambassador Krell, these terms seem quite extensive. Krell's four-fingered hand waved dismissively. For a Class 3 world, these are standard terms. In fact, they are quite generous. Many worlds are required to provide up to 60% of their resources. And what happens if we find these terms unacceptable? Asked the Chinese premier. For the first time, Krell's diplomatic mask slipped slightly. The agreement is not optional. It is the Council's will. You have 72 Earth hours to formally accept these terms. As the assembly erupted in controlled chaos, exactly as Earth's leaders had planned, Commander Reed slipped out of the hall and into a secure communications room. It's happening, she said into her encrypted communicator. Krell just delivered the ultimatum. We have 72 hours. Director Wilson's voice came through clearly. Understood. Operation Revelation is now active. The fleet will be ready. On the dark side of the moon, the hidden shipyard burst into frenetic activity. The 3 warships, Defiant, Valiant, and Resolute, were in their final stages of preparation. Work crews moved with practiced urgency, completing the last connections and system checks. Director Wilson walked briskly through the control center, issuing orders. I want all 3 ships at full combat readiness in 48 hours, he called out. Transfer all non-essential personnel back to Earth. Load all weapon systems and activate all defense grids. His assistant hurried alongside him. Sir, we're getting reports that more alien ships have entered the solar system. 7 vessels, larger than the diplomatic ships. Wilson's face hardened. They were planning this all along. They brought reinforcements. For when we inevitably objected to their generous terms. Should we warn the Thunderbolt? Captain Miller already knows. He's been tracking them since they crossed Neptune's orbit. In Jupiter's shadow, the Thunderbolt had indeed detected the approaching alien fleet. On the bridge, Captain Miller studied the tactical display with his officers. 7 warships, First Officer Parker observed. Standard Galactic Council battle formation. They weren't expecting any resistance, Miller said. This is a show of force, not a real invasion fleet. Communications Officer Hayes looked up from his station. Captain, we've received new orders from Earth Command. Operation Revelation is active. We are to proceed to position Alpha and await final command. Miller nodded. Lieutenant Park, plot a course that keeps us out of their sensor range. Chief Thompson, I want engines at 100% when we break cover. Yes, sir, Thompson replied from the engineering station. The modifications to the drive are complete. We'll be faster than anything they've got. Miller turned to his weapons officer. Arm all systems. but keep them powered down until my command. We don't want to give away any surprises too early. As the crew prepared for their first real combat mission, Miller retreated to his ready room. He activated his personal log. Captain's log, Earth date April 15th. After decades of preparation, humanity is about to reveal itself to the galaxy as more than just another primitive world to be harvested. I can't help but wonder if the Council has ever faced a species that fought back effectively. Whatever happens in the next 72 hours will change the course of human history forever. Back on Earth, Commander Reed entered a secure underground bunker, where Earth's top leaders had gathered. Screens around the room showed the alien ships now in orbit. The aliens had made no attempt to hide their military vessels. In fact, they were deliberately positioned to be visible from Earth's surface, a not-so-subtle threat. "What's the status of our fleet?" asked the President. "The lunar shipyard reports all 3 vessels will be combat-ready within 48 hours, Reed replied. "The Thunderbolt is moving into position." "And the aliens haven't detected any of our preparations?" Reed shook her head. "Their arrogance is our greatest advantage. They're so convinced of our technological inferiority that they're not even looking for advanced energy signatures. Our stealth systems are more than adequate to fool their passive scans." The Russian president spoke up. "When do we reveal our hand?" "At the last possible moment," Reed answered. "We want them completely committed to their current strategy." "And what about civilian populations?" asked the Indian Prime Minister. "If this turns into a fight, evacuation plans for major cities are ready," Reed said. "But I don't think they'll target civilians. The Council wants our resources, not a devastated planet." The President stood, addressing the room. "For decades we've prepared for this moment. Since we recovered that crashed ship from Antarctica, we knew this day would come. Humanity will not become another vassal species, harvested for the benefit of the Galactic Council." Ambassador Krell was surprised when he received a message that the Earth leaders wished to meet with him ahead of schedule. Perhaps these primitives were more sensible than he had expected. Quick acceptance of the inevitable would make the transition much smoother. He arrived at the White House with his senior staff, escorted to the cabinet room where Earth's most powerful leaders waited. "Ambassador," the President greeted him with a somber nod. "We've reviewed your terms, and you've made the wise choice to accept them promptly," Krell said, not bothering to phrase it as a question. "Actually," the President said, "we have some concerns we'd like to discuss." Krell's expression hardened. "The terms are not negotiable." "Perhaps," the President said carefully. "But there seems to be some unusual energy readings coming from the moon that your ships might want to investigate before we proceed." For the first time, uncertainty flashed across Krell's alien features. "The moon? What readings?" The President smiled slightly. "Just some primitive nuclear testing, I'm sure. Nothing that would concern an advanced civilization like yours." As Krell reached for his communicator, suddenly aware that something was very wrong, Earth's 72 hours were already counting down toward the moment of truth. The Grand Hall of the United Nations had been transformed for the formal acceptance ceremony. Ornate decorations covered the walls, and a raised platform stood at the center where Earth would officially sign away its independence. "Ambassador." Krell had dismissed the strange comment about energy readings from the moon. Clearly, it was just the humans' clumsy attempt at delaying the inevitable. A much more important arrival demanded his attention. Admiral Vex, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Council's Enforcement Fleet, had entered Earth's orbit with his battle group. The Admiral himself would oversee the signing ceremony, a rare honor for a Class 3 world. Admiral Vex was tall even for his species, with gray-blue skin that had darkened with age and prominent facial ridges that marked his high rank. His ceremonial uniform glittered with medals from 100 planetary conquests, none of which had required actual fighting. "Ambassador Krell." The Admiral's deep voice rumbled through his translator as they met in the preparation room. "Your reports indicate these humans are particularly docile. They had some minor objections to the resource quotas," Krell replied, "but they seem to have accepted reality now." Vex nodded. "Good. The Council is particularly interested in this world's biological diversity. The Science Division has identified several promising compounds in Earth's oceans. The northern polar region will also provide an excellent location for the new military base, Krell added. From there, we can monitor the next 3 systems we plan to investigate. Very good. Let us proceed with the ceremony. High above Earth, hidden in synchronous orbit behind a small communications satellite, Captain Miller and the crew of the Thunderbolt watched as 3 more ships emerged from the lunar shadows. The Defiant, Valiant, and Resolute moved silently into their assigned positions, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to standard Galactic Council sensors. All ships report ready, Captain, First Officer Parker announced. Miller nodded. Open a secure channel to all vessels. When the connection was established, Miller addressed the fleet. This is Captain Miller. For decades, humanity has prepared for this moment. Today we show the Galactic Council that Earth will not be another harvested world in their collection. Our mission is to disable, not destroy. We want to send a message, not start a war we can't win. Stick to your assigned targets, and remember your training. Miller out. He turned to his weapons officer. Status of our weapon systems? All systems green, Captain. Main cannons charged and ready. Adaptive shield generators at full power. Communications? Hayes looked up from his station. Channel open to Earth Command. They're waiting for our signal to begin. Miller took a deep breath. Send the confirmation. Operation Revelation is go. Inside the United Nations Hall, Admiral Vex approached the podium as world leaders watched with appropriately solemn expressions. Camera drones hovered around the room, broadcasting the historic moment to billions of humans worldwide. People of Earth, Vex began, his translator giving his voice a metallic edge. Today marks your world's formal entry into the greater galactic community. Under the protection of the Council, your species will be guided toward a more productive future. In the audience, the President made eye contact with Commander Reed, who nodded slightly and touched her earpiece. Before we proceed with the signing, Vex continued, I will outline the immediate changes that will... The Admiral stopped mid-sentence as an aide rushed to his side, whispering urgently. Vex's expression changed from confidence to confusion. What? Do you mean unknown ships? He hissed, forgetting his translator broadcast every word. That's impossible. The President stood up. Is something wrong, Admiral? Before Vex could answer, the large view screens around the hall, intended to show the signing ceremony, suddenly changed. Instead, they displayed a live feed from space, showing 4 Earth warships appearing as if from nowhere, surrounding the alien fleet. Gasps filled the room as humans saw their secret fleet revealed for the first time. The ships were massive, their sleek black hulls marked with the flags of multiple Earth nations. Their design clearly incorporated alien technology, but with distinctly human modifications. Admiral Vex stared at the screens in disbelief. This is some kind of trick. The screen split, and Captain Miller's face appeared. This is Captain James Miller of the Earth Defense Vessel Thunderbolt. Admiral Vex, Ambassador Krell, your ships are now surrounded. Earth rejects the terms of your so-called protection agreement. Krell turned to the President, his composure completely shattered. What is the meaning of this? You don't have this technology. It seems we do, the President replied calmly. Perhaps your assessment of Earth was incomplete. In orbit, the alien fleet scrambled to battle positions. Inside the Thunderbolt, Miller watched as the enemy ships formed a defensive formation. They're powering up weapons, reported the tactical officer. Raise shields, Miller ordered. Maintain position but do not fire unless fired upon. On the main view screen, Admiral Vex's furious face appeared. Whatever primitive weapons you've cobbled together are no match for a Council battle group. Power. Down your ships immediately or face destruction. Miller remained calm. Admiral, we've been studying your technology for decades. We know exactly what your ships can do and what our ships can do to them. We're not looking for a fight, but we won't surrender our world to become another Council resource farm. This is absurd, Vex sputtered. Your species is barely space capable. That's what we wanted you to think, Miller replied. Now, here are our terms. The Galactic Council will recognize Earth as a sovereign, independent world with full rights. All Council ships will withdraw from our solar system immediately. We will establish normal diplomatic relations afterward, as equals. Vex's laugh was harsh. You're in no position to make demands. At that moment, one of the alien destroyers broke formation and fired a warning shot that passed close to the Defiant. Miller didn't hesitate. All ships, execute Pattern Alpha. Target weapons and propulsion systems only. The Earth fleet moved, with surprising speed and coordination. The Thunderbolt and Defiant engaged the lead Council ships, while the Valiant and Resolute swept around to flank the alien formation. What happened next stunned even the most confident Council officers. Earth's weapons, modified versions of alien technology, sliced through the Council ship's shields with shocking effectiveness. The human vessels moved faster, their shields adapting instantly to each Council weapon. Within minutes, 3 alien vessels had lost weapons capability, and a 4th drifted with damaged engines. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Vex watched, in disbelief as his tactical display showed half his fleet effectively neutralized, without a single human ship taking significant damage. How is this possible, he demanded. Their shields should have collapsed under our first barrage. His science officer's voice shook. Sir, they've modified the basic shield design. Ours operate on fixed frequencies, but theirs are adapting. Each time we hit them, they adjust to resist that specific energy pattern. That's impossible. The shield technology has been standard for millennia. Apparently, the science officer said quietly, someone found a way to improve it. As Vex struggled to comprehend what was happening, Captain Miller's voice came through. Again, Admiral, half your fleet is disabled and the rest are outmatched. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw peacefully. In the United Nations Hall, humans watched the space battle unfold on the large screens. Ambassador Krell stared in shock as images showed Council ships, the same vessels that had intimidated thousands of worlds, being systematically disabled by Earth's hidden fleet. The President approached him. It seems we need to renegotiate our relationship with the Galactic Council, Ambassador, as equals this time. Admiral Vex stood rigid on the bridge of his damaged flagship. Half his fleet drifted powerless in Earth orbit, their weapons disabled by precision strikes from the human vessels. The other half maintained defensive positions, shields weakening, with each exchange of fire. Nothing in his 300 years of service had prepared him for this humiliation. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Thunderbolt is approaching our position. They're requesting permission to dock. Dock? Vex's voice rose in disbelief. They dare to board a Council flagship? Our main weapons are offline, the officer reminded him, and their captain says he wishes to discuss surrender terms, in person. The Admiral's gray-blue skin darkened with anger. I will not surrender to primitives who— Sir, interrupted his science officer, scans indicate their technology is— well, it's our technology, but improved. Their shield modifications alone represent an advancement we've not seen in centuries. And there are energy signatures we can't even identify. Vex stared at the view screen where the Thunderbolt grew larger as it approached. Its sleek black hull showed barely a scratch despite the barrage it had weathered. Open a channel, he finally ordered. Captain Miller's calm face appeared on the screen. Admiral Vex, I'm coming aboard with a small team to discuss terms. Please have your docking bay prepared. It wasn't a request. Vex realized he had no choice. Agreed. Bay 3 is operational. 20 minutes later, Captain Miller led a team of 4 through the alien ship's corridors. Engineer Thompson walked beside him, scanning the ship's systems with a handheld device. 2 security officers followed close behind. The humans wore no helmets or breathing apparatus, a small but deliberate message that they were completely comfortable in the alien environment. Council guards escorted them to the command deck where Admiral Vex waited. The chamber fell silent as the humans entered. The Council officers stared in disbelief at these primitives who had defeated their fleet. Admiral Vex, Miller said with a formal nod. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I had little choice. Vex replied coldly. What are your terms? Miller stepped forward and activated a small holographic projector. A document appeared in the air between them. The nations of Earth have prepared this agreement. The key points are simple. The Galactic Council will recognize Earth as a fully independent world with all the rights of a spacefaring civilization. All Council ships will withdraw from our solar system within 24 hours. Future diplomatic relations will be conducted through proper channels, with each side respecting the other's sovereignty. Vex studied the document with narrowed eyes. This is unprecedented. A Class 3 world cannot simply— "We are not a Class 3 world," Miller interrupted. "That classification was based on incomplete information. Let me demonstrate why." He nodded to Thompson, who activated another holographic display. This one showed a detailed map of nearby star systems, with dozens of small markers scattered throughout. "These," Miller explained, "are unmanned probes Earth has sent to neighboring systems over the past 50 years. We've been studying the galaxy long before your ships arrived," the alien officers murmured in shock. One spoke up. "But we detected no such launches or propulsion signatures." Thompson smiled slightly. "We improved your stealth technology too." Vex's posture changed as the reality of the situation sank in. "How did you acquire our technology in the first place?" Miller met his gaze. 80 years ago, a Council scout ship crashed in our Antarctic region. The pilot did not survive, but the ship remained largely intact. We studied it, learned from it, and improved upon it. "Impossible," another officer said. "Our technology is the culmination of thousands of years of development." "Perhaps that's the problem," Thompson replied. "When you believe you've reached the pinnacle, you stop looking for better solutions." Miller returned to the matter at hand. "Admiral, the agreement also includes a non-aggression pact. We have no interest in conflict with the Council. We simply wish to maintain our independence and develop in our own way." Vex stared at the document for a long moment. "The Council will not be pleased." The Council wasn't going to share the resources they plan to take from Earth, Miller pointed out. "I doubt they'll miss what they never had." With visible reluctance, Vex pressed his hand to the document, officially acknowledging receipt. "I will transmit this to Council headquarters, but be warned, this is not the end of the matter. We expect nothing less," Miller replied, "but perhaps it's the beginning of a more equal relationship." 1 week later, the Earth fleet maintained orbit as the last Council ships prepared to depart. On the surface below, Ambassador Krell formally closed the alien embassy, his previous arrogance replaced by careful diplomacy. In the Oval Office, the President met with Captain Miller, Commander Reed, and Director Wilson to discuss Earth's next steps. "The Council has officially recognized our status," the President announced, "though I'm told there was considerable debate." Reed smiled slightly. "Debate is better than outright rejection. It means they're taking us seriously." "What about our fleet?" the President asked. "The Thunderbolt will remain our flagship," Miller reported. "The Defiant, Valiant, and Resolute are fully operational, and Director Wilson tells me the lunar shipyard has begun work on 3 more vessels." Wilson nodded. "With the knowledge we've gained from this encounter, we can make even more improvements to the next generation of ships." "And what about Engineer Thompson's modifications?" the President asked. "The adaptive shield technology seems to be our greatest advantage. We're implementing his designs across the fleet," Wilson confirmed. "Thompson has also developed some interesting theories about faster-than-light travel that could revolutionize how we navigate between stars." The President walked to the window, looking up at the sky. "For thousands of years, humanity wondered if we were alone in the universe. Then we discovered we weren't alone, but we might be cattle. Now we've shown the galaxy that Earth won't be just another resource world." "The Council has already received messages from 3 other systems," Reed added. "Species who were classified as Class 3 or Class 4, all asking about Earth's technology. It seems we may have started something bigger than just our own independence." "What happens now?" the President asked. Miller stood beside him at the window. "Now we prepare for our first official diplomatic mission. The Council has invited an Earth delegation to their headquarters. They claim it's to formalize relations, But really, they want to get a closer look at us. And we want a closer look at them, the president observed. Exactly. We'll be taking the Thunderbolt. The council needs to understand that Earth comes to the table as an equal, not a subject. 2 months later, Captain Miller stood on the observation deck of the Thunderbolt. As the great ship prepared to depart, Earth looked peaceful from orbit, its blue-white surface showing no signs of the momentous changes that had occurred. First Officer Parker joined him by the viewport. Engineering reports all systems ready, Captain. We can depart whenever you, give the word. Miller nodded. Our first official mission as representatives of Earth. Not bad for a primitive species. The diplomatic team is settled in their quarters, Parker continued, though Ambassador Reed is already asking about our estimated arrival time at Council headquarters. Miller smiled. Commander Reed had been the obvious choice for Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her intelligence and strategic mind would serve humanity well in the complex negotiations ahead. Tell the ambassador we'll arrive. Exactly when we mean to, Miller replied. A bit of mystery keeps them on their toes. As the Thunderbolt broke orbit and accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, Miller thought about the journey ahead. Humanity had revealed itself as a new power in the galaxy, young perhaps, but far from helpless. The great ship reached its jump point and disappeared in a flash of light carrying Earth's message to the stars. We come not as subjects, but as equals. Underestimate us at your peril. For the Galactic Council had learned a valuable lesson. They thought Earth was young, but we attacked with a starship.